Have you ever had that weird feeling that something isn't just random? You know, like when you check the time and it's 11:11 again? Or when you're thinking about your old friend and boom, they send you a message right at that moment? Or maybe you've been seeing butterflies everywhere lately, way more than usual, and something inside you just knows it means something more. Most people would brush these off as pure chance, as nothing but coincidences. But what if I told you that these moments aren't accidents at all? What if these are actually special messages, like personal notes from the universe, written just for you? Every single day, life is trying to talk to us. It's like getting text messages from the universe, but most of us have our phones on silent. We're too busy, too distracted, or maybe too scared to believe that something bigger than us is trying to reach out. Think about it. In our super busy lives, filled with endless to-do lists and notifications, we've kind of forgotten how to notice these special little nudges that the universe keeps sending our way. You might be thinking, come on, really? The universe sending me messages? I get it. I used to think the same way, but here's something that might change your mind. These coincidences often show up exactly when we need them most. They appear when we're feeling lost, when we need answers, or when we're about to make a big decision. And the crazy thing is, once you start paying attention to them, you begin to see them everywhere. Right now, you might be missing out on some of the most important guidance of your life. Imagine walking through a huge library where every book holds answers to your questions, but you never learned how to read. That's what it's like when we ignore these signs. These aren't just random events. They're like personal letters sent directly to you, containing wisdom, warnings, and wonderful opportunities. Think about all the times you've had a gut feeling about something but ignored it because it didn't make logical sense. Later, you probably kicked yourself because that feeling turned out to be right. Or those moments when you felt drawn to take a different route to work but didn't, only to find out later that you missed running into someone who could have changed your life. These aren't just what-ifs. They're real opportunities the universe is constantly putting in your path. The truth is, once you learn to notice and understand these signs, your whole life starts to flow differently. It's like suddenly getting a GPS for life when you've been using an old torn paper map. Decisions become clearer. Opportunities seem to appear out of nowhere. And that constant feeling of wondering if you're on the right path, it starts to fade away because you begin to trust that you're being guided. Let me share something that completely changed how I see these signs. A few years ago, I was stuck in a job that looked perfect on paper. Good salary, nice office, impressive title, all the things we're supposed to want. But something felt off. I couldn't explain it, but every morning I woke up with this heavy feeling in my stomach. At first, I did what most people do. I ignored it. I told myself I was just being ungrateful. But then the signs started showing up. First, it was small things. I kept seeing job advertisements for writing positions, even though I wasn't looking. Then, books about following your passion practically fell off shelves when I walked by. One day, I was stuck in traffic because of a detour, and guess where I ended up? Right in front of a writing workshop building with an "Open House Today" sign. I laughed it off as a coincidence. The signs kept getting bigger and harder to ignore. 3 different people who didn't know each other all told me within the same week that they could see me as a writer. Then, during a random coffee break, I met someone who had just quit their corporate job to start writing. They told me about their journey, and every word felt like it was meant for me. Still, I resisted. After all, leaving a secure job to write? That seemed crazy. The turning point came when I found an old journal from high school. I had completely forgotten about it, but there it was, filled with stories and dreams about becoming a writer. As I sat there reading my own words from years ago, my computer dinged with an email. It was from my boss, asking me to write an important company announcement because, in his words, "You have a way with words that no one else in the team has." That was my wake-up call. All these coincidences weren't random at all. They were showing me a path I had been too afraid to see. Looking back, I can trace a clear line through all these signs, like connecting dots that were always there, just waiting for me to notice them. Each sign was like a gentle nudge, then a stronger push, and finally a clear message that I couldn't ignore anymore. The amazing thing is, once I started paying attention to these signs, more appeared. But they weren't just about writing anymore. They were about all aspects of my life. It was like the universe was saying, "Finally, she's listening." Opportunities started appearing in unexpected places. I'd meet just the right person at just the right time. Ideas would come to me exactly when I needed them. It wasn't that these things weren't happening before, I just hadn't been paying attention. What really strikes me now is how personal these signs were. They weren't vague, general messages that could apply to anyone. They were specific to my journey, my passions, and my path. The universe wasn't just sending random signals. It was speaking to me in a language it knew I would understand, using writing, books, and words, because those were things that would catch my attention. This experience taught me something crucial. Signs from the universe are like text messages from a best friend who knows us better than we know ourselves. They're not always big, dramatic events. Sometimes they're small, subtle hints that we only notice when we're really paying attention. They're like breadcrumbs leading us down the right path, even when that path looks nothing like what we expected. And here's the really interesting part. The more I look back, the more I realize these signs were always there. Not just in this situation, but throughout my whole life. Times when I met someone important through a series of random events. Moments when a wrong turn led to a right opportunity. Even times when delays and setbacks turned out to be blessings in disguise. The signs were always there. I just hadn't learned to read them yet. What I've come to understand is that my story isn't unique. Everyone has these signs in their life. The universe is constantly trying to communicate with all of us. The only difference is whether we're paying attention or not. It's like we all have this incredible guidance system built into our lives, but most of us never got the user manual. We're all getting these cosmic text messages. We just need to learn how to check our spiritual inbox. Let's talk about something that's probably happened to you, seeing the same numbers pop up everywhere. You know those moments when you keep catching 11:11 on the clock? Or maybe you notice the number 444 showing up on license plates, receipts, and phone numbers. Most people laugh these off, but these numbers are like little messages written in the universe's special code, and they're trying to get your attention. Think about this. In our huge world, full of endless number combinations, what are the chances you'd keep seeing the exact same ones? It's like getting the same text message over and over until you finally stop to read it. These numbers aren't just random, they're like spiritual alarm clocks waking us up to something important. When you see 111, it's not just a number, it's like a cosmic thumbs up telling you you're on the right track. I remember when I first started noticing 777 everywhere. It showed up in my coffee shop order number, then in a phone number someone gave me, and even as the amount on a receipt, 777s. At first I thought that's weird, but then I learned that in many spiritual traditions, 777 is seen as a sign of being supported and protected. During that time, I was thinking about making a big life change, and these numbers felt like little nods of encouragement from the universe. The really fascinating thing about these number patterns is how personal they can be. Maybe you keep seeing your birthday numbers, or numbers that remind you of someone special. It's like the universe knows exactly which numbers will catch your eye. And here's something even more interesting. Different numbers often show up during different parts of our journey. When you're starting something new, you might see lots of ones. When you need to be patient, 424 might keep appearing. But it's not just about seeing the numbers. It's about what you're doing or thinking when you see them. Were you just asking yourself a big life question? Were you worrying about something? Were you thinking about making a change? The numbers are often like little answers or gentle nudges saying, "Hey, pay attention to this moment." They're like cosmic road signs helping us navigate our path. Have you ever had someone show up in your life at exactly the right moment? Like meeting someone who has the exact advice you need, or bumping into an old friend who opens up a perfect opportunity. These aren't just lucky coincidences. They're what I call messenger meetings. And they're some of the most powerful signs the universe sends us. Think about the last time you randomly met someone who changed your day, your week, or maybe even your life. Maybe you took a different route to work and met someone who told you about a job opening. Or perhaps you were struggling with a problem, and suddenly you run into someone who went through the exact same thing. These meetings feel random, but they're actually carefully orchestrated by the universe. I've seen this happen countless times. Once I was dealing with a tough decision about moving to a new city. That same week, I somehow ended up sitting next to someone on a bus who had made the exact same move 5 years ago. They shared their whole experience with me, answering questions I hadn't even asked out loud yet. The chances of meeting exactly the right person with exactly the right experience? That's more than just luck. These messenger meetings don't always look dramatic or life-changing at first. Sometimes it's just a quick conversation with a stranger that gives you a new perspective. Or maybe it's reconnecting with someone from your past who brings an important message for your present. The key is that these meetings often leave you feeling like they happened for a reason, like there was something important you needed to hear or learn. What's really interesting is how these meetings often come in clusters. You might suddenly meet 3 different people who all point you in the same direction, or you keep running into the same person in different places until you finally have a meaningful conversation. It's like the universe is making absolutely sure you don't miss the message it's trying to send you. Let's talk about those moments when everything just clicks into place perfectly. You know those times when you're running late, but that delay somehow leads to something amazing? Or when something you've been waiting for finally happens at exactly the right moment? This isn't just good luck. It's what I call divine timing. And it's one of the clearest signs that the universe is working behind the scenes. Sometimes these perfect timing moments seem frustrating at first. Like when your car breaks down and you miss an appointment, only to find out later that something negative happened at that meeting. Or when a job rejection leads you to an even better opportunity that wasn't available when you first started looking. The universe often uses timing to protect us or guide us toward better paths, even when we can't see it in the moment. I've experienced this myself countless times. Once I missed a flight due to traffic, something that seemed like a disaster at the time. But on my rebooked flight, I sat next to someone who ended up becoming a close friend and later introduced me to my current business partner. Looking back, if everything had gone perfectly, according to my original plan, I would have missed out on these life-changing connections. The amazing thing about perfect timing is how it often works out better than anything we could have planned ourselves. It's like the universe has a better schedule than our calendars do. Those moments when you decide to take a different route home and avoid a major traffic jam, or when you feel pulled to call someone right when they really need support, that's perfect timing in action. But here's what most people don't realize about divine timing. It's not just about the big moments. It's also in the small, everyday things. That moment when you think of a friend and they text you seconds later. Or when you stumble upon exactly the information you need right when you need it. These aren't just random coincidences. They're little reminders that there's a bigger plan at work. The really beautiful thing about perfect timing is that it often leads to a domino effect of positive events. One perfectly timed moment leads to another and another, creating a chain of events that couldn't have been planned better if we tried. It's like watching a masterfully choreographed dance where every step happens exactly when it should. Sign 4. Thoughts that won't leave you alone. Ever had a song stuck in your head for days and then suddenly realized its lyrics were exactly what you needed to hear? Or maybe you can't stop thinking about someone only to find out they really needed you at that moment? These persistent thoughts aren't just random brain activity. They're like text messages from your soul trying to get your attention. Think about how many thoughts pass through your mind every day. Thousands, right? So when one thought keeps coming back, again and again, it's like the universe hitting the highlight button. Maybe you keep thinking about starting a garden, or learning to paint, or reaching out to an old friend. These aren't just random ideas. They're gentle nudges guiding you towards something important. I remember a time when I couldn't get the thought of learning photography out of my head. It wasn't even something I was particularly interested in, but the idea kept popping up. I'd see cameras everywhere, overhear conversations about photography, and even dream about taking pictures. When I finally decided to take a basic photography class, I met someone who helped me see life from a completely new perspective. The persistent thought wasn't about photography at all. It was leading me to an important life lesson. These recurring thoughts often show up in different ways. Sometimes it's a word or phrase you keep hearing everywhere. Other times it's a feeling that won't go away, like you should check on someone or go somewhere specific. It might even be dreams that keep repeating with similar themes. Each of these is like a different language the universe uses to communicate with us. What's fascinating is how these thoughts often connect to each other in ways we can't see at first. That song stuck in your head might have lyrics about being brave, right when you need courage to make a big decision. Or those random memories of your childhood might be reminding you of dreams you've forgotten. It's like your inner wisdom is trying to connect the dots for you. Now let's talk about how you can start noticing and understanding these signs in your own life. The first and most important step is keeping a sign journal. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just write down anything that feels meaningful or keeps repeating in your life. Write down those numbers you keep seeing, those random thoughts that won't leave you alone, those coincidences that feel a bit too perfect. Staying present is another crucial part of noticing signs. We're all so busy thinking about the future or dwelling on the past that we miss what's happening right now. Try to spend at least a few minutes each day just observing what's around you. Notice the details, the numbers, the songs playing in stores, the conversations you overhear. These might all be carrying messages for you. Learning to trust your gut feelings is also essential. You know that tiny voice inside that whispers, "Maybe this means something." Start listening to it more. Your intuition is like a built-in sign detector, and the more you pay attention to it, the stronger it gets. When something feels significant, even if you can't explain why, make a note of it. You might be surprised how these seemingly random moments connect later. Taking action when signs appear is just as important as noticing them. If you keep seeing signs about reaching out to someone, make the call. If numbers related to a certain date keep appearing, mark that date in your calendar and pay attention to what happens. Signs are like doors. They show us opportunities, but we still have to walk through them. It's natural to have doubts about signs. You might wonder, am I just making this all up? Or, why don't these signs work every time? These questions are actually part of the journey. Doubt doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're thinking deeply about your experiences. And that's a good thing. Remember that signs aren't always about big, life-changing moments. Sometimes they're just gentle reminders that we're connected to something bigger than ourselves. They might be helping us make small course corrections that add up to big changes over time. Not every sign needs to lead to a dramatic revelation. The key is finding a balance between being open to signs and staying grounded in reality. Don't force meanings where there aren't any, but also don't dismiss experiences that feel meaningful just because they don't make logical sense. Trust that if something feels significant, there's probably a reason, even if you can't see it yet. As we wrap up this journey through the world of signs and synchronicities, remember that you're already surrounded by messages and guidance. You just need to tune in to notice them. Think of it like learning a new language. At first, everything might seem confusing and random, but with practice, you'll start to understand the patterns and meanings. Your journey with signs and synchronicities is unique to you. The way the universe communicates with you might be different from how it speaks to others, and that's perfect. Start paying attention to what catches your eye, what gives you goosebumps, what makes you pause and wonder. These are all ways the universe might be trying to get your message across. Remember, you don't need to figure everything out at once. Start small. Notice one sign today. Write down one coincidence tomorrow. Let your awareness grow naturally. Trust that the signs you need will become clear when you're ready to see them. The universe has infinite patience and will keep sending messages until you're ready to receive them. Think of this as the beginning of a beautiful conversation between you and the universe. Every sign, every synchronicity, every perfect moment of timing is part of a larger dialogue. You're not just a passive observer in this conversation. You're an active participant in a cosmic dance of meaning and purpose. Stay open, stay curious, and most importantly, trust your journey. The signs are already there, waiting for you to notice them. Your path is uniquely yours, and the universe is ready to guide you every step of the way. This isn't the end of our discussion about signs. It's just the beginning of your own amazing journey of discovery.